The morning air felt thick and heavy as Dr. Maya Chen wiped sweat from her forehead. 3 weeks in the Amazon rainforest had left her tired but determined. She wasn't ready to give up, not when she had come so far. Her backpack weighed on her shoulders as she carefully stepped over a fallen tree trunk covered in bright green moss. Just one more day, she told herself, taking a sip of water from her nearly empty bottle. Her research grant wouldn't last forever and her supplies were running low. Time was becoming as scarce as the rare plants she had come here to study. Maya had always been drawn to places others avoided. Even as a child growing up in a small town, she would wander into the woods behind her house while other kids played in their backyards. There was something about discovering things that no one else could see that made her feel alive. Now at 34, that same feeling kept her pushing forward through the endless green maze of the Amazon. Her research team had turned back a week ago, concerned about the approaching rainy season and the dwindling food supplies. But Maya had convinced them she would be fine alone for a few more days. Just enough time to collect samples from this unexplored section of the forest that no biologist had properly documented before. This could change everything we know about rainforest ecosystems, she had told them. They nodded politely, but she could see the doubt in their eyes. It wasn't the first time people underestimated her. The jungle grew thicker as she continued. Insects buzzed around her head, and somewhere in the distance monkeys called to each other. Maya pulled out her machete and began cutting through a wall of vines blocking her path. The blade sliced through the green tangle, each swing bringing her deeper into uncharted territory. By midday, the heat had become almost unbearable. Maya stopped to rest under the shade of a massive kapok tree, its trunk wider than her tent. She pulled out her worn field journal and made notes about the plants she had collected that morning. Her pen paused over the paper as she heard an unusual sound, metal creaking, almost like a door swinging on rusty hinges. She looked up, confused. That wasn't a sound that belonged in the rainforest. Maya stood, reaching for her binoculars. She scanned the dense foliage ahead, seeing nothing but trees and vines at first. Then a flash of something white caught her eye. Too white, too straight to be natural. She adjusted the focus, her heart beating faster. That can't be right, she whispered to herself. Through the small circle of her binoculars, she had spotted what looked like a piece of white metal partially covered in vines. It was too geometric, too manufactured to belong in this ancient forest. Maya packed her journal away quickly and headed toward the strange object, curiosity pushing her forward faster than before. The going was rough. The forest seemed determined to keep it secret, with thorny plants scratching at her arms and hidden roots trying to trip her feet. But Maya was more determined. After nearly 2 hours of difficult progress, the forest suddenly opened up into a clearing. Maya froze at the edge, her mouth falling open in disbelief. There, nestled between massive trees like a beached whale, sat a cruise ship, not a small boat or even a yacht, but a massive ocean-going cruise ship. Its white hull now stained with dirt and covered in creeping vines. The name Oceanic Paradise was still visible on the bow, though some letters were partially obscured by the forest's attempt to reclaim this intrusion. "This is impossible," Maya said aloud, her voice sounding strange in the unusual quiet of the clearing. She blinked hard, half expecting the ship to disappear like a mirage, but it remained, solid and undeniably real. Maya approached slowly, her mind racing through possible explanations. The nearest navigable river was over 200 miles away, and even that couldn't support a vessel of this size. The ocean was more than 500 miles distant. There was simply no way this ship could have gotten here by water. As she got closer, she could see that the ship was tilted at a slight angle, as if it had been dropped from the sky. The hull showed no signs of being dragged or transported through the forest. The surrounding trees were too old, too established to have grown after the ship arrived. Maya took out her camera and began taking pictures circling the massive vessel. She checked her GPS device to record the exact coordinates. Someone needed to know about this, but who would believe her without evidence? The ship must have been beautiful once, designed for luxury cruises in tropical waters. Now it looked like something from a strange dream. A dream where things from one world appeared impossibly in another. After documenting the exterior, Maya found a service ladder hanging down the side, partially hidden by climbing plants. She tested it with her weight. Despite years of exposure to the elements, it seemed solid enough. Taking a deep breath, she began to climb. The metal rungs were warm from the sun and slick with moisture in some places. Maya climbed carefully, looking up at the railing high above. Questions raced through her mind. How long had the ship been here? What happened to the people who must have been aboard? How did something this large end up in the middle of nowhere without anyone knowing? When she reached the top, Maya paused to catch her breath. From this height, she could see how perfectly the clearing fit the ship, almost as if the forest had made space for it, or as if it had appeared suddenly, pushing the trees aside with its arrival. A small door stood ajar nearby, an emergency exit that would normally be used only during evacuation drills. Maya approached it cautiously. The reasonable part of her brain told her to wait, to go back and bring others before exploring further. But the same curiosity that had driven her all her life pushed her forward. "Hello?" she called out, her voice sounding small against the vastness of the ship. There was no answer except for the distant calls of birds and the constant hum of insects. The door opened with a groan of protest, revealing a dim corridor. Maya pulled a flashlight from her pack and switched it on, the beam cutting through the stale air inside. Dust particles danced in the light, but otherwise the interior appeared surprisingly intact. She stepped inside, the temperature immediately dropping several degrees. The corridor led to what must have been a luxury cabin. Inside, suitcases lay open on the bed, clothes spilling out as if someone had been in the middle of unpacking when they were interrupted. A novel rested on the nightstand, a bookmark still holding a place near the beginning. On the desk, a half-written postcard, "Having a wonderful time. The weather is perfect and the food is amazing. Wish you were—" The message stopped mid-sentence. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. It felt like walking through a moment frozen in time, preserved like an insect in amber. She continued down the corridor, checking more cabins. Each told a similar story. Lives interrupted suddenly, belongings left behind in what seemed like a hurry. As the day grew later, Maya made her way to the bridge, hoping to find some answers. The captain's quarters were just off the main control room, the door hanging open. Inside, she found what she was looking for: the ship's log, still sitting on the desk where it had been last used. Maya carefully opened the leather-bound book, turning to the final entry. The handwriting was neat and professional, recording weather conditions, coordinates, and passenger information. The last entry was dated June 17, 2011, almost 15 years ago. The final words simply noted, "Clear skies, seas calm, all systems normal." And then nothing. Looking out through the bridge windows at the surrounding forest, Maya tried to make sense of it all. How could a ship traveling through the Caribbean Sea end up deep in the Amazon rainforest? And where were all the people? As the sun began to set, strange sounds echoed through the abandoned corridors. Metal expanding and contracting, water pipes settling, maybe even animals that had found their way aboard. Maya knew she should leave, make her way back to her camp before dark. But the mystery of the ship held her firmly in its grip. She decided to spend the night aboard, setting up her small tent in the main lobby where the space was open and the ceiling rose several stories high. As she lay in her sleeping bag that night, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the ship mixed with the familiar chorus of the rainforest outside, Maya knew she had stumbled upon something that would change her life forever. Tomorrow, she would try to contact the outside world. Tomorrow she would begin to unravel this impossible mystery. But tonight, in the darkness of an abandoned cruise ship in the middle of nowhere, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't truly alone. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through the grand windows of the ship's lobby. For a moment she forgot where she was, the fabric of her sleeping bag feeling out of place against the faded luxury of her surroundings. Then reality rushed back. She had spent the night on an impossible ship. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, she sat up and rubbed her eyes, listening to the chorus of birds outside mixing with the strange settling sounds of the abandoned vessel. After a quick breakfast of dried fruit and the last of her trail mix, Maya packed her sleeping bag and prepared for a proper exploration of the oceanic paradise. Day 24 in the field, she spoke into her small voice recorder. "I've discovered what appears to be a full-sized cruise ship in a clearing approximately 200 miles from any water deep enough to float it. The vessel shows signs of abandonment but no significant damage. Today I'll conduct a systematic exploration of the interior." Maya pulled out her notebook and sketched a rough layout of the ship. Based on what she could see from the lobby, she marked the areas she had already visited and planned a route that would cover as much of the ship as possible. With her flashlight ready and camera hanging around her neck, she set off toward the ship's heart. The main staircase led down to a massive dining room. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, now draped with cobwebs that sparkled in the beams of light coming through the windows. Tables were still set with fine china and silverware, water glasses half full with liquid long since evaporated, leaving mineral rings behind. "It's like everyone just vanished in the middle of dinner," Maya whispered to herself, running a finger through the dust on a plate. A napkin lay crumpled beside it, lipstick still visible on its edge. Maya took careful photographs of the scene, trying to capture the eerie stillness. As she moved between tables, something crunched under her boot. Looking down, she saw a child's toy, a small plastic dinosaur, bright green against the deep red carpet. She picked it up and turned it over in her hand, imagining the child who might have dropped it. A noise from the kitchen startled her, a metallic clang, like a pot falling to the floor. Maya froze, listening intently. "Hello?" she called out, her voice echoing through the empty dining room. "Is someone there?" Silence answered her. After a moment's hesitation, she moved cautiously toward the swinging doors that led to the kitchen. She pushed one open slowly, wincing at the squeak of its hinges. The industrial kitchen beyond was enormous, designed to prepare meals for thousands of passengers. Pots and pans hung from racks, and large cooking stations filled the center of the room. Near one of the ovens, a metal bowl lay on the floor, the likely source of the noise she'd heard. Probably just fell because of the ship settling, she told herself, though she wasn't entirely convinced. She picked up the bowl and placed it on a counter, noticing that the dust had been disturbed in places, creating paths across the floor that hadn't been made by her own footprints. Maya continued her exploration, moving through recreation areas, a casino with cards still scattered across poker tables, and a theater with seats facing a stage where curtains hung in tatters. Everywhere she looked, she found signs of life suddenly interrupted. Drinks abandoned at the bar, a pile of casino chips stacked and ready to be played, a script open on a seat in the theater's front row. By midday, she reached the ship's massive pool deck. The pool itself was empty, its blue bottom stained with dirt and leaves that had blown in through broken windows. Lounge chairs were arranged in neat rows, some with towels still draped across them, now faded from years of sunlight streaming through the glass ceiling above. Near the pool bar, Maya found a camera, an expensive model that had been popular about 15 years ago. Its battery was long dead, but the memory card might still be intact. She carefully removed it and tucked it into her pocket, hoping she might be able to view its contents later. As the day progressed, Maya explored deck after deck, cabin after cabin. In one suite, she found a suitcase filled with expensive clothes, price tags still attached. In another, a laptop computer sat open on a desk, its screen dark and lifeless. A family cabin contained children's toys scattered across the floor, and colorful clothes hanging neatly in open closets. The personal items affected Maya most deeply. A handwritten letter never finished, a bottle of perfume with just a few drops remaining, a wedding ring left on a bathroom counter. Each item represented someone who had vanished without warning, leaving pieces of themselves behind. By late afternoon, Maya found herself in an area marked staff only. The crew quarters were smaller, but just as suddenly abandoned as the passenger areas. In one room, a half-eaten meal sat on a small table. In another, a uniform was laid out on a bed, ready to be worn for a shift that never started. Maya's stomach growled, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since breakfast. She made her way back to the lobby where she had left her pack, pausing occasionally to photograph particularly striking scenes of abandonment. As she walked through a narrow corridor, a cold draft brushed against her skin, making her shiver despite the tropical heat outside. The feeling that she wasn't alone had been growing stronger all day. More than once she thought she heard footsteps behind her, only to turn and find empty hallways. Once she was certain she saw movement reflected in a mirror, but when she spun around, there was nothing there. Back at her makeshift camp in the lobby, Maya ate the last of her food rations while reviewing her notes and photos. The ship was a mystery that seemed to deepen with each new discovery. There were no signs of panic or struggle anywhere, just sudden absence, as if everyone aboard had simply vanished in an instant. As the sun began to set, Maya decided to try her satellite phone again. She had attempted to call out that morning with no success, but perhaps from a higher vantage point, she might get a signal. She made her way back to the bridge, climbing stairs that groaned under her weight. The bridge offered a commanding view of the surrounding forest. From this height, Maya could see that the clearing around the ship formed an almost perfect circle, as though the vessel had appeared suddenly and pushed the vegetation outward from a central point. The thought sent another chill through her. She held up her satellite phone, watching as it searched for a signal. 1 bar appeared, then 2. Maya quickly dialed her research supervisor's number, her heart pounding with excitement. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then miraculously a voice answered. Dr. Patel speaking. Dr. Patel, it's Maya Chen. I need you to listen carefully. The words tumbled out as Maya described her discovery, giving her coordinates and begging for a rescue team to be sent with supplies. There was a long pause before Dr. Patel responded, his voice cautious. Maya, are you sure about this? A cruise ship in the middle of the rainforest sounds impossible, I know, but I'm standing on it right now. I've documented everything. Please, you have to believe me. Another pause. Your GPS coordinates show you're deep in uncharted territory. It will take us at least 2 days to reach you, even by helicopter. I have enough water to last, and I can search the ship for emergency rations, Maya said, relief washing over her. Just please come, and bring a team. Historians, engineers, anyone who might help make sense of this. After ending the call, Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Help was coming. She wasn't alone with this impossible discovery anymore. As darkness fell, she made her way back to the lobby, planning to move her camp to the bridge where she would have a better view of any approaching rescue. But as she gathered her belongings, a sound stopped her cold. Footsteps clear and deliberate coming from a corridor behind her. Maya turned slowly, her flashlight beam cutting through the growing darkness. The corridor stretched empty before her, but the footsteps continued, moving away now, as if whoever or whatever had made them wanted her to follow. Against her better judgment, Maya found herself moving toward the sound, drawn by the same curiosity that had guided her all her life. The footsteps led her down unfamiliar corridors, deeper into the ship than she had ventured during her day's exploration. They stopped at a door marked Engineering Authorized Personnel Only. The door stood slightly ajar, darkness beyond seeming deeper, more absolute than the dimness of the corridor. Maya hesitated, her hand on the door. The logical part of her mind screamed that this was dangerous, that she should return to the safety of open spaces. But another part, the part that had driven her to become an explorer in the first place, urged her forward. She pushed the door open, her flashlight revealing a room filled with complex machinery and control panels. And on the far wall, something that made her gasp. A large map of the ship with certain areas marked in red. Areas where she had felt the strongest sensations of being watched. Areas where she had heard unexplained sounds. Someone had been tracking her movements throughout the day. Someone was on the ship with her, and now they had led her exactly where they wanted her to be. Maya's heart pounded as she stared at the map. Red lines traced her path through the ship that day, with timestamps scribbled beside them. Someone had been watching her every move, and they wanted her to know it. She backed toward the door, her flashlight beam shaking slightly as she swept it across the engineering room. Who's there? She called out, trying to keep her voice steady. I know someone's here. Show yourself. Only silence answered her. Maya stepped back into the corridor, her mind racing. Should she run, hide? She was alone in an impossible place with someone, or something, tracking her movements. Before she could decide, a noise from deeper in the ship caught her attention. Metal striking metal, deliberate and rhythmic. 3 quick taps, a pause, then 3 more. Not random sounds, but a pattern. A signal. Against her better judgment, Maya followed the sound, moving cautiously through the dimly lit passages. The tapping led her to a door marked Maintenance Access. Taking a deep breath, she pushed it open. The room beyond was small, filled with tools and spare parts. And there, huddled in the corner, was a man. He looked to be in his 60s, with a wild gray beard and clothes that hung from his thin frame. When he saw Maya, he scrambled backward, eyes wide with fear. It's okay, Maya said softly, lowering her flashlight so it wouldn't blind him. I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Dr. Maya Chen. I'm a biologist. I found this ship by accident. The man stared at her for a long moment, then spoke in a hoarse whisper. Are you real? The question caught Maya off guard. Yes, I'm real. Are you? Were you a passenger on this ship? He shook his head. Crew engineer, name's Roy, been here since it happened. His words came out halting as if he wasn't used to speaking aloud. Since what happened, Roy? How did this ship get here? Roy's eyes darted around the room as if checking for eavesdroppers. Don't know exactly. We were cruising near Bermuda. Normal day. Then the sky. It turned wrong. Colors that shouldn't exist. Then everything went dark. When we could see again, we were here. He gestured vaguely. In the jungle. Where is everyone else? Maya asked, trying to make sense of his story. Roy's face crumpled. Gone. Most people disappeared during the event. Just vanished. Those who remained tried to find help. Left in groups. His voice dropped even lower. Never came back. You've been alone here all this time? 15 years? He nodded slowly. Lost count of days. Found food in storage, rainwater. Learned to trap small animals. Forest has fruits, plants. He looked up suddenly, eyes sharp. Others will come now that you've found us. They'll take it away. Take what away? Instead of answering, Roy stood up shakily. Need to show you something. Important. Then you'll understand. Maya hesitated, unsure whether to trust this strange man who had been stalking her throughout the ship. But her curiosity won out. Okay, show me. Roy led her through a maze of maintenance tunnels that ran through the ship's infrastructure, areas tourists would never see. They emerged into what must have been a crew recreation room, now converted into a living space. Makeshift furniture was arranged around a table covered in papers and drawings. My research, Roy explained, gesturing proudly. Been trying to understand what happened. Why we're here. Maya looked over his work. Complex diagrams, mathematical equations, and star charts filled dozens of papers. Though she wasn't a physicist, she recognized enough to realize Roy was documenting something extraordinary. The ship didn't just move in space, Roy explained, pointing to his calculations. It moved sideways, through something else. A fold in reality. Before Maya could ask what he meant, her satellite phone rang, making them both jump. She answered quickly. Maya, it's Dr. Patel. We're about 20 minutes from your coordinates. Can you make your way to a clearing where we can land? Yes. Yes, I'll get there right away. She turned to Roy, who was backing away, fear in his eyes. It's okay. They're my colleagues. They can help us understand what happened here. Roy shook his head. Can't let them take me. Can't let them have my research. No one's going to take anything, Maya assured him. But we need to tell the world about this place. About what happened to the passengers and crew. After much coaxing, Roy agreed to meet the helicopter, though he insisted on bringing his research papers. Together they made their way through the ship and back down to the forest floor. The sound of helicopter blades cut through the jungle sounds as they reached the edge of the clearing. The helicopter landed in a swirl of dust and leaves. Dr. Patel was the first to step out, followed by a team of 4 others, 2 more scientists from Maya's university, a photographer and a guide familiar with the region. Their faces registered shock as they took in the massive white cruise ship rising above the jungle canopy. It's real, Dr. Patel whispered, staring upward. I didn't really believe it until now. Introductions were made, with Roy hanging back nervously until Maya coaxed him forward. The team had brought supplies, food, water, fresh batteries, and equipment for a proper investigation. As they set up a base camp at the edge of the clearing, Roy slowly began to open up, showing his research to Dr. Valdez, a physicist who had joined the expedition. These calculations, Dr. Valdez murmured, flipping through Roy's papers. They're describing some kind of spatial anomaly. A wormhole, perhaps, or something we don't have a name for yet. Over a meal of rehydrated stew, the first proper food Maya had eaten in days, the team discussed their next steps. The university had agreed to fund a 2-week investigation before going public with the discovery. They needed to document everything, collect evidence, and try to piece together what had happened. There's something else, Maya said, pulling out the memory card she had found in the camera by the pool. I haven't been able to view what's on this yet. Dr. Valdez produced a laptop and a card reader from her pack. The team gathered around as she inserted the memory card, tension building as they waited to see what images it might contain. The first photos were typical vacation snapshots, passengers smiling by the pool, elaborate desserts at dinner, tropical sunsets over calm seas. Then came a series of images that made everyone fall silent. The photos showed the sky above the ship turning strange colors, just as Roy had described. Swirls of purple and green that didn't look natural. In the final image, a dark tear seemed to be opening in the center of the sky, with the edges of the photo blurring as if reality itself was coming apart. These were taken moments before the ship was transported, Dr. Valdez said quietly. This could be the first photographic evidence of a spatial anomaly in action. As the team discussed the implications, a local guide who had been setting up tents approached the group. He had been listening to their conversations with growing concern. "My grandfather told stories of this part of the forest," he said hesitantly. "The tribe avoids it. They say it is a place where the world is thin, where things can slip through from elsewhere. They have seen strange lights in the sky here for generations." The team exchanged glances. Local legends often contained kernels of truth, passed down through generations. "Is there anything else your grandfather mentioned?" Maya asked. "Anything that might help us understand what happened here?" The guide nodded slowly. He spoke of a time when men came to this place with machines. They built something underground not far from here. This was perhaps 20 years ago. The tribe watched from a distance but never approached. Shortly after, strange things began to happen. Animals disappearing, plants growing in unusual ways, time itself seeming to bend. Dr. Patel sat up straighter. "Are you saying there might be a man-made structure near here? Something that could have caused this?" "I can show you where my grandfather said it was," the guide offered. "But we should wait until morning. Night comes quickly in the forest, and this is not a good place to be in darkness." As if to emphasize his point, an unnatural silence suddenly fell over the jungle. The constant background noise of insects and animals that had been present since Maya's arrival abruptly ceased, leaving only the sound of wind through leaves. Roy clutched his papers to his chest, eyes wide. "It happens sometimes," he whispered. "When the thin places stretch, we should go inside the ship. It's safer there when the forest goes quiet." The team looked at each other uncertainly, then at the darkening jungle around them. Something moved in the shadows beyond their camp. Something large enough to rustle the underbrush but make no sound of its own. Without another word, they gathered their essential equipment and followed Roy back toward the massive, white vessel that had brought its mysteries. From another place, or perhaps another time, to this isolated clearing in the heart of the Amazon. Dawn broke over the forest with an eerie stillness. The team had spent an uncomfortable night aboard the ship, huddled in the main lobby with flashlights casting long shadows across the faded luxury. No one had slept much. Every creak and groan of the vessel's hull had them sitting up, alert for danger. "The forest sounds normal again," Maya said, standing at one of the large windows. Birds called in the distance, and the familiar hum of insects had returned. Whatever strange silence had fallen over the jungle the previous evening had passed. The group gathered their equipment and prepared to follow the guide to the location his grandfather had mentioned. Roy refused to leave the ship at first, clutching his papers and shaking his head. "It's not safe," he insisted. "They might still be there, watching, waiting." "Who might be there, Roy?" Dr. Valdez asked gently. "The men who did this. Who tore the sky open?" His eyes darted nervously. "Sometimes I see lights in the forest at night. Hear engines." After much coaxing, Roy agreed to join them, though he kept looking over his shoulder as they made their way into the jungle. The guide led them through seemingly impenetrable undergrowth, following markers only he could recognize. A bent branch here, a particular configuration of stones there. After 2 hours of difficult hiking, they reached a small clearing. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable about it. Just more trees, more vines, more of the endless green that made up the Amazon. But the guide pointed to a patch of ground that seemed slightly different from its surroundings. "Here," he said, "the earth has been disturbed. Not by nature." Dr. Patel knelt down, brushing away fallen leaves to reveal what appeared to be a metal panel, almost entirely covered by soil and plant growth. The team worked quickly, clearing away the debris until they uncovered a hatch about 3 feet across. A faded logo was painted on its surface, a stylized atom with the letters QFT underneath. "Quantum Field Technologies," Dr. Valdez read aloud. "I've heard of them. They were a private research company that shut down suddenly about a decade ago. Rumor was they were doing cutting-edge physics experiments, pushing boundaries that made some people nervous. The hatch had a simple wheel mechanism for opening it. With some effort, Dr. Patel managed to turn it, the metal groaning in protest after years of disuse. As the hatch swung open, stale air rushed out, carrying the scent of dust and abandoned places. A ladder descended into darkness. Maya shone her flashlight down, revealing a concrete shaft that extended about 20 feet below ground. "I'm going down," she said, already securing her backpack. "Maya, wait," Dr. Patel cautioned. "We don't know if it's structurally sound. It could be dangerous. More dangerous than a cruise ship appearing in the middle of the jungle? I don't think so." Maya swung her legs into the opening. "Besides, we came here for answers. I'm betting they're down there." One by one, they descended the ladder. First Maya, then Dr. Valdez, the photographer Tom, Dr. Patel, and finally Roy, who kept mumbling to himself as he climbed down. The guide chose to remain above ground, promising to keep watch. At the bottom of the shaft, they found themselves in a narrow corridor with doors leading off it. Emergency lights glowed dimly, powered by what must have been a backup generator system designed to last for years. Someone expected this place to remain operational even after being abandoned, Dr. Valdez observed, examining one of the light fixtures. The first room they entered appeared to be a monitoring station. Computer terminals sat dark and silent along one wall, while the opposite wall was covered in screens, all blank except one that displayed a single blinking cursor. "Let me see if I can get anything working," Tom said, sitting down at one of the terminals and pressing the power button. To everyone's surprise, the computer hummed to life, its fan whirring as ancient systems booted up. A password prompt appeared on the screen. Tom tried several common combinations without success. "Maybe there's a clue somewhere else in the facility," Maya suggested. "Let's keep looking." The next room held what looked like laboratory equipment, centrifuges, spectrometers, and other devices Maya couldn't identify. A large circular platform dominated the center of the room, surrounded by what appeared to be electromagnetic coils. Roy stopped dead in his tracks when he saw it. "That's it," he whispered, his face pale. "That's what tore the sky open." Dr. Valdez approached the platform cautiously, examining the equipment around it. "This looks like some kind of particle accelerator, but configured in a way I've never seen before. They were trying to manipulate quantum fields, perhaps create a controlled singularity." In a smaller room adjoining the lab, they found rows of filing cabinets. Most were locked, but one had been left partially open. Maya pulled out a folder labeled Project Doorway, Phase 3, Testing. Inside were documents detailing experiments with localized space-time manipulation and cross-dimensional transport. Most of the technical jargon went over Maya's head, but the implications were clear enough. The scientists at this facility had been trying to create a passage between 2 points in space, a doorway that bypassed normal physics. "Listen to this," she said, reading from one report. "Test 17 successful at laboratory scale. Object transported 2.4 kilometers with minimal distortion. Preparations underway for large-scale field test." The date on this is June 15, 2011, just 2 days before the cruise ship disappeared. Tom called from the monitoring room. "I got into the system. You need to see this." They hurried back to find him staring at a video file dated June 17, 2011. Tom pressed play, and grainy footage filled the screen. It showed the circular platform they'd just seen, now humming with energy, blue light pulsing between the coils. Scientists in lab coats moved around it, adjusting equipment and checking readings. "Energy levels stable at 87%. A voice said off camera. "Targeting coordinates locked." The camera angle changed to show an overhead view of the facility, then panned upward to the sky above the jungle. Even through the poor quality of the recording, they could see the same strange colors that had appeared in the cruise ship passengers' photos. Unnatural purples and greens, swirling in patterns that hurt the eyes. "Singularity, forming," the voice announced. "Field expansion in 3, 2, 1. The sky seemed to tear open, a dark rift appearing in the center of the swirling colors. The camera shook violently and alarms began blaring in the background. "Energy surge. Containment failing. Shut it down." Chaos erupted on screen. Scientists ran in all directions as equipment sparked and exploded. The last clear image before the video cut out was of the rift expanding rapidly, the edges of reality seeming to bend inward toward it. They lost control of whatever they were doing. Dr. Valdez said quietly. Created something too powerful to contain, and the cruise ship was caught in it, Maya added. Pulled through from the Caribbean to here. But where are the passengers? Dr. Patel asked, looking at Roy. You said most of them vanished during the event. Where did they go? Before Roy could answer, the blinking cursor on the screen changed, forming words that appeared one letter at a time. Who are you? The team froze, staring at the message. Tom's hands hovered above the keyboard, uncertain. Someone else is in the system, he whispered. Right now. Answer it, Maya urged. Tom typed slowly. We are researchers. Who are you? The response came quickly. Survivors. A chill ran through the room. Dr. Patel leaned forward. Ask where they are, Tom typed. Where are you? The cursor blinked for several long moments before the reply appeared. Everywhere, nowhere. The rift didn't just move the ship. It moved us between. Between what? Maya asked aloud, though she knew whoever was typing couldn't hear her. As if in answer, new text appeared. Between realities. We see you, we see everything. But we can't come back. How many of you are there? Tom typed. 732. All of us trapped. The passenger manifest. The entire complement of passengers and crew minus Roy. How are you communicating with us? Tom asked. The answer sent ice through Maya's veins. The walls between worlds are thinner here, especially at night. Suddenly, the power fluctuated, lights dimming before brightening again. A new message began to form. They're coming back. The ones who did this. We can sense them. You need to... The message cut off as the terminal went dark. At the same moment, a deep rumbling shook the facility, dust raining down from the ceiling. We need to leave. Now, Dr. Patel said, already moving toward the exit. They scrambled up the ladder, emerging into daylight to find their guide looking pale and frightened. People are coming, he said, pointing through the trees. Many people. With machines. In the distance, they could hear the unmistakable sound of vehicles moving through the jungle, heavy equipment breaking through the undergrowth, and above it all the rhythmic thump of helicopter blades. Government? Maya wondered aloud. Roy shook his head, gathering his precious research papers closer. Quantum field technologies. They're coming back to finish what they started.